is Rick Watson. I'm the host of the Watson Weekend, your weekly dose of e-commerce
We
zen.
do break news here as of last week. So
We
I'm
break, yeah.
we break news. I'm Jessica Leseski. Welcome. If you are not familiar with the show, we come here every week. We break down the top headlines. We dive deep into a story that is sure to unpack new insights from an e-commerce perspective. And we have amazing guests. So today is none other, but you're going to break down some things that happen around the world, right, Rick?
I am. And some, I think, pretty interesting things happened. 11 BC, et tu, Brute? Julius Caesar assassinated by his best friend, nonetheless. Nonetheless, is that going to happen to us?
No, never. We've been friends so long, but I do think this was the first backstabbing, literally, on record. Boom, boom.
Right. I love it. We're
Thank
going
you.
to keep it rolling. 1985, the first internet domain name, symbolics.com, registered. First of all, are you a domain squatter, Jess?
I had these dreams of being one because I thought that was like the next get rich, quick scheme. But yeah, no.
I have probably about 35 domains, but I know people who have hundreds of domains, like going way back. But it seems like they picked a bad name. Symbolics.com? I don't understand. Google's DeepMind AI wins Go challenge against Lee Sedol 4-1 in 2016. If you kind of go back to AI, it seems like AI didn't just join us. So AI's been around a while. The U.S. Federal Reserve slashes interest rates to near zero to support the economy during the COVID-19 pandemic. Oh, COVID. We hardly miss you. I think we're going to head right into the headline hangover, which we're excited to talk to you about. First up, American Eagle's logistics bird is shot down. If you kind of look at the last couple of years, there are a lot of retailers that thought they could be logistics companies, and American Eagle is one of them. They even acquired a couple of companies related to that in 2021 and 2022. The company was called Quiet Logistics and $360 million, which was founded by Bruce Welty, like pretty noted entrepreneur. And then only to kick him out in 2022, they bought a startup about 10 months after its launch called AirTerra for $3 million. Now they take a $98 million impairment and are focusing instead on their core capabilities. So I think what you'll see is AEO focusing on logistics for their own business, as well as a few key customers, likely former Quiet Logistics customers. So that's something we'll talk about. At the end of the day, pandemic was somewhat of a logistics fever dream, and that was an issue that is currently being corrected 100%. So from the second thing is Walmart has announced their AM delivery, and it seems like they're delivering as early as 6 a.m. now, and certain categories will actually only be delivered to you in as little as 30 minutes. Some of the categories that I found most interesting was bait. Really, you can get bait to your house directly in as little as 30 minutes. And if you're trying to go fishing in the morning, you're going to go out on the lake, you can get your bait delivered there. So I'm excited to do that. North Carolina, it seems like a bait state of mind, Jess. Is that something that you'd be interested in?
Yeah, it is a bait state of mind. But I also saw you get workout clothes. And there really is a scenario where you wake up at 6 a.m., you're like, oh shit, I forgot to pack my workout clothes. So yeah, you need them expedited to you. And that probably happens, 1 out of 8 years. So we're all good. Now we have a
Yeah.
solution.
Yeah, speaking of workout clothes, can we pour out some liquor for Outdoor Voices stores?
Yeah, I know. RIP. We need to talk about that. Deep dive for another day.
100%. How about the Oscars? Didn't
Oh,
we have this coming up?
Rick, yes, the Oscars work. It actually was the highest viewership on record. It was kind of one of the first times in a couple of years where they also sold out all of their advertising. So everyone's pouring out and going to the President's Club in the
Love it.
ABC sales land. So they're really excited about that. On top of that, you had these big blockbusters. It's movies you never heard of. They're always in the indie theaters. And most of America doesn't really kind of show up for
America.
that. America, you had Oppenheimer, you had
Yeah.
Barbie, you had also some really well-known actors and actresses being recognized. I thought it was really well done. Plus, the Ryan Gosling, I'm Just Ken, brought the house down. I
Love
personally
it.
watched that 3 times on YouTube. Do you think this has got some staying power, or was this just a little fluke in Oscar land?
It depends on the stars that are there. I think Ryan Gosling has particular star power, particularly in that bedazzled pink Ken outfit, which
Monroe tribute again.
I love it.
What's
And
old is
Brittany,
new.
yeah, Brittany and I were doing karaoke at home because they had all the words up on the screen, and we were following along with the rest of Hollywood. And so it seems like it was a fun moment.
Yeah, it really was. I made my kids watch it. I'm like, you guys, this is what the magic is. Get some
No,
personality.
100%.
Just get Ken.
Next up, Biden wants to ban TikTok. Trump does not. So it seems like the only thing that the House of Representatives can agree on is that Chinese companies are bad. Yet,
Yes.
at the last moment, Trump decides he's for TikTok and against Mark Zuckerberg.
I wonder why that happened.
Change of heart, big TikTok investor because he's running campaign finance? Who knows?
Yeah, yeah. It's an interesting question. I wonder, will this have the staying power? And you talked about Zuckerberg. Look, I think we could unpack this for lots of different reasons. There's many sides of points of view, but did you remember that Social Dilemma documentary on Netflix and just how addicting algorithmically all these other social media? So, is TikTok really any worse than the addiction created by other American companies?
Big question mark. That was a super depressing documentary because I identified with it. And I'm like, oh, that's how they're hooking me. Oh, and then
Yeah.
I went back to scrolling Instagram.
Yeah, I love Linda's comment here. It is a strategy, right? Like, let me get all the young 18-year-olds, the Gen Zers, to in my voting pool. Could be a strategy.
Love it. I don't know. Could anyone else buy TikTok? I kind of like Trump's nick. Trump is famous for giving nicknames to people. He called Zuckerschmuck, which is kind of an interesting one. So
There's
anyway,
always a fun name.
that's a fun name. We'll back on TikTok. So next is Shoptalk. I'm
We're
headed to
talking shop.
Vegas. It seems like, and Matt, we can talk about this later when he's on. All conferences are in Vegas now. Everything from AI to AI will be at this event.
I really want AI to be on your bingo card. And I also want you to do something like, I don't know, maybe it's mark your arm, take a shot every time you hear it. Because it feels like it's going to be not only the narrative holistically, if you walk the show floor or you're sitting in one of, but it's going to be hammered home 24/7.
Yes, hammered is the operative word for Vegas. That's what I
Yes.
would use there. So let's focus on that. I love those speed dating sessions. You
Yes.
see, there's
Yeah.
just like a
Yeah.
sea of tables where only two people can sit. It's like the world's tiniest tables. And if you
Yeah.
watch that intro scene in The Matrix where they're growing humans, like that freaky scene,
Yeah.
they're like
Yeah.
thousands of millions. That reminds me of those speed dating tables at Shop Talk.
Yes, yes. And you know, I've been on both the B2B side and on the retail side. Being on the B2B side of Shop Talk and seeing people cycle through, you automatically know that some people who just show up and we were here for the free ticket. I'm like, you can leave now. It's okay. I don't need this 15 minutes.
It's useless. And by the way, these people are spending so much money to meet with people who are hammered and do not care to show
Give
up to
zero
those meetings.
Fs. Zero
No,
Fs.
100%. So we're excited to be talking with a true OG in the e-commerce industry, Matt Kubancik. I met Matt when he was 12. He was knee-high to a grasshopper.
Selling
And
cards out of a
yeah,
basement.
I think he got ID checked at Channel Advisor events back in the day because he was the youngest eBay millionaire. Let me go through. Matt Kubancik has been around in e-commerce for over 2 decades. He's the co-founder of Guardian Baseball. He has transformed them from a reseller into an omnichannel D2C retailer. And if you watch any of his videos, he's the only one showing, and this is his rookie card. He has 5 kids. He's an eBay legend, completed 2 exits, and he gives no shits to anyone. And
He does
so
not.
that the thing I love about Matt is he will give you a straight opinion of these things. It says he's looking to make a global impact. I don't believe that, to be honest with you. If you know Matt, he's just a fun-loving guy.
Matt,
Welcome, Matt.
welcome.
Hey, how you guys doing today?
We are
We
great.
are excited. You don't seem as hype as your normal self. We got to get your energy level up a little
I'm,
bit.
I'm very PC these days. I have
You
my
no,
kids
no,
at
no. That
Walmart, so I told you I have to be very, very PC. So,
very
but yeah,
buttoned
I'll
up.
get hyped for you, Rick. So,
Yeah, you picked the wrong program to be on if you're trying to be PC, my friend.
Again, we give 0 Fs. So
Yeah.
this is a world where it is okay. Let it all fly.
all right.
No, 100%. So we're happy to have you here. How was your week?
Excellent, excellent. So preparing, just got back from Florida spring training and going out to Arizona for more baseball meetings next week, and yeah, just kicking off our busy season. So this is the busy season for baseball. It's March and April. It's kind of like November and December of everybody else's ecom season. So
Yeah, and Matt, we know you love Vegas, right?
I'd take anywhere. Are they going to move it to San Francisco? That's the other option you give us besides Vegas. So I'm like, I like Bentonville. We go down there. It's beautiful. It's really clean. It's nice. They have a lot of bike trails. It's really good outdoors. There's a lot of golf. So I just kind of miss Rick, the old Channel Advisor. And when Channel Advisor started doing those shows at like certain areas in North Carolina that were really beautiful, and now everything's just in Vegas. And it's just like the same shows. There's different agendas, but I go out there just for the e-commerce shows, but then I'm in 2 or 3 different industries. So all those industry shows are out there. And I mean, we have mutual friends in this industry that are literally there at least once a month. I mean, it's almost at the point where certain people should start considering, buying a property and Airbnb it when they're not there. So
That makes sense. Yeah,
yeah.
and Matt, we all go way back in the Channel Advisor days, and you have been this e-commerce class acting guru from the beginning. I remember you being on stage with Sam from Amazon, and you guys were breaking down like the strategies of being successful on Amazon. So, just kind of curious, like, how have you been able to kind of keep that rolling, keep it going?
I think just always reinventing yourself. And I always consider myself, I grew up loving art. My grandmother was an artist. She was also in the clothing industry. And I grew up doing a lot of art, drawing. I was in 3D before I got into ecom. I was big into like 3D models, like in movies and stuff. And we used to go to a lot of the camps for that type of stuff.
This is when Matt was 12.
And I started selling on eBay when I was 13 years old in baseball cards.
Amazing.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, 1999. So I actually got 1 year in the 90s in ecom. So I love to claim that. But yeah, I think just being an artist and always be able to creative and reinvent yourself, and being able to transition to different industries and bring elements of other industries into those industries where they're kind of lacking, and then learning a lot. I'm always looking for people smarter than myself, you guys included. And I like to read and listen to a lot of podcasts and just hear from different guest on shows and really take different elements, reach out to people. I'm a big networker. So it's always been, something in the fold. And any way I can always help someone advance in ecom, I always try to do and give back to the next generation or somebody. And a lot of people have opened doors and helped me succeed. So it's not just me, it's a lot of people around me and a lot of people within this industry that I think help and open doors for each other.
One of my favorite stories that we had back in the Channel Advisor days, Matt, was when you came to the Channel Advisor events in a new Scott Wingo T-shirt every year. One of them, Scott Wingo, is my homeboy. And how about some of the others?
One was Wingo Made Me Millions, and I remember it was either Walmart or Amazon executives were there, and then Scott wore it for them. And then I think when we launched SKU Vault, I was like, before anybody did anything, Wingo did everything or something like that. And then we had a SKU Vault logo on there or something. I don't know, something like that. But yeah, we always printed up creative, fun T-shirts for him at his conferences. So.
It was the best. And Matt, you've always had great style too. So like what inspires your style choices in addition to your t-shirts?
Yeah, my grandmother was in the clothing business. She owned two fabric stores in outside of Cleveland, Ohio, and so they used to go to New York and go to Fashion Week material. At that time, people made clothes, right? In the '60s, there was more, as opposed to buying them off the racks as much. So at that time, it was the fabric business, and my mom worked in those stores. And I think when my dad went to Vegas trade shows, he was in the construction industry. My mom would always take me. Vegas has really underrated retail. I mean, I think it's become pretty prevalent now. But my mom would take me to all the retail stores, and it was kind of like New York at that time. So I got used to a lot of the stores, like Armani and all these different stores, and seeing different elements. And I just kind of fell in love with fashion. That's where I started my first business in e-com called Street Moda, and we were a fashion retailer and a big channel advisor customer, and dealt with all the brands in New York and footwear and apparel, and tried to find a way to really navigate and bring value to customers online, but also do it in a fun, creative way.
You mentioned about reinvention, and it seems like a few different points you went in a not obvious direction, from selling on eBay and Amazon into software with a lifelong friend of yours, Andy Eastis. Talked about that transition, and then maybe the transition into Guardian, because like those transition points, I think, can really help people learn maybe about a situation that they're in.
At SKU Vault, in theory, we were a channel advisor retailer at that point, and at that time, this is probably 2012. There wasn't a solution. Perfect fate. Stone Edge was actually had 2,000 or 3,000 customers. Yeah, but they sold out. It was bought by a competitor, a pseudo competitor, channel advisor. So at that point, we had tried to use Stone Edge. I hired Andy and a programmer named Slava, who's a local Russian, Ukrainian guy, and was really good on computers, to implement that system, but it did not work. And Slava was very, tech, and he was like, this system is not good. I'm not here to trash Stone Edge from 15 years ago, but that just didn't work for our business. And it didn't work for other people's businesses as well. So they decided to build something, and then when they launched that, it worked in our warehouse, and then I took it to Wingo, and it just kind of happened at that same time where Stone Edge was bought out. He was like, hey, find a few other people to use it that are in the channel advisor circles. Come back down here when you have 2 or 3 references, then we can kind of get you in the partner portal and that. So, I mean, really, the channel advisor space really grew that SKU Vault business. And obviously now in today's age, SKU Vault ended up taking a bunch of equity 5 or 6 years ago, and then ended up selling out in the last few years. But it was really a SaaS WMS system. A lot of the WMSs also always would go into channel management and then break partnerships with people like Channel Advisor. And I think our theory at the time was, we're going to stay in our lane. We're going to be a great partner to Channel Advisor. We're going to be a great partner to the shipping partners like ShipWorks and Wes and people like that started that. And we're just going to do an affordable WMS system. And I think we're always about affordability. That's all my part. And I think SKU Vault provided this affordable element at the time. It was either custom build, people were building their own system, or it was SAP or Oracle. And there wasn't anything like in that SaaS space that was affordable. And I think we just hit at the right point. And it was just a blessing that Stone Edge was bought out by a competitor. That deal didn't end up working out. And then Channel Advisor was incentivized to move over, because I think Scott's working with me knew I was like certified crazy half the time, but I was also a loyal person. And I told him, I'm like, hey, we're not ever going to get into these spaces. You have my word. And if, help do what you can within your means to help us kind of grow and facilitate. And I think it was our number one partnership, mutual shared clients for a number of years. So, so grew that business, and it still use it today in some of my e-commerce businesses. And that ended up selling to Linworks. And then I sold Street Moda in 2017, and the whole marketplace reselling, even if you were direct with brands like Steve Madden and all these brands, changed. It's continuing to change. Also, the footwear and apparel industry is very tough. It's consolidated a lot. Companies that used to have 10 or 15 wholesale reps have 1 or 2 now. The number of retailers have really condensed. And when I sold that business, I sold it to another old channel advisor partner, BHFO, Stacy and John in Iowa. Went to go consult for them and help them build their footwear business and get some traction on Amazon and direct vendor relationships. And when that was done, I obviously had a non-compete, and I just didn't want to get back into the same thing. So I always had a lifelong passion of baseball. My kids started playing baseball. and the prices were crazy for equipment. And me, coming
Yeah.
from the fashion industry, I always knew that these companies, when you see a $200 or $300 shoe, the landed price is usually like 10, $20, like, right?
Yeah.
So there's so much markup in there. And I knew seeing $500 or $600 metal baseball bats that the same thing was going on.
Right.
And at the time so one of the guys, my co-founder, owns a Jewish kid from LA, only child, moved here to play college baseball, same age as me. He started training my kids. He has 18 travel teams. His name's Zev, and him and I just became lifelong friends. I walked in his office one day, and he's like, I want to make the next crazy baseball item that's worn on field, and was like
Right.
trying to construct a special batting glove. And I was like, why don't we just stop paying retail for all your equipment and jerseys, and let's just sell stuff on
Start
Amazon.
there. Yeah.
And we'll just start there. So it started off
Yeah.
as a very small business, and Guardian grew into this, I would say, a hybrid between like a marketplace, my friends over marketplace, and then like a retailer. So we were buying goods from the traditional brands and sports equipment, but we're also producing content for the brands, videos that were going on social media channels. And we're very early on in NIL, grew that business, over 10 million in revenue. And then we just hit a lot of hurdles with kind of growing to that next level that were limitations not by us, but limitations by bigger competitors. Our business was fueled by closeouts and SMUs. And at some point, you tap out. So over the last 10 years, I saw this rise of people that had never been in e-com that started D2C brands. And I also saw that a lot of the people that were in e-com switching to like Amazon private label.
Yep.
And we started addressing needs that weren't really done in the sporting goods industry. And they're about 10 to 20 years behind of everyone else in e-com. And, they were only making black and pink and girls, for example. And I'm like, hey, like, I know this is revolutionary, but let's make a bag in like black Tiffany mint or black rose gold. And they were like,
right.
Oh.
I was really impressed you got into like, women's softball early on.
Yeah.
And highlighting the stars. Like one thing I always saw on your socials is that you were really highlighting the athletes. Tell me about that.
We have about 100 professional athletes that wear our gear. So we started making goods predominantly in the kids space. Then we moved into pro level equipment, and we're all about affordability. I'd say we're like the Skechers or Hyundai Genesis of like the baseball and softball equipment industry. And we're all about partnering with the athletes, especially in Latin America. That's a big following of ours, and constantly always doing collab posts with the athletes or featuring them, whether they're a 10-year-old kid in Chile or a guy making $20 million a year in the major leagues. That's one of the top base dealers. You know what I mean? So it's it's a very authentic approach. So I think a lot of people in the game really relate to that.
I really think most of what you have is guts. You're not afraid to try the new thing, enter the uncharted territory, and you've been testing a lot of things early on in e-commerce. Can you talk about some of your learnings? Like you were early on with Buy with Prime as an example, but what have been some of the things that you're early in and they've worked, or they were early in and it didn't work out?
Amazon, I think obviously I was early on in the 2000s. eBay back in the early 2000s. There was a lot of marketplaces that Channel Advisor really started pushing, I would say, in the 2010s that for various reasons didn't end up working out. Buy.com, and I probably forget all the other ones.
Right.
You guys would probably name them
Blue
better.
Nile. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we could probably have a full episode on those.
Yes.
That would be a fun episode.
It would, the pour one out for the ones that didn't make it.
Yeah. We bring back logos of everyone that didn't make it. So.
Overstock auctions. That's one for you.
Oh yes, I remember. Ooh. Yeah, auction. Oh, nice pull. So Matt, what's the next thing you see?
Latin America. We're in Dominican. We're in Venezuela. We have boots on the ground. I want to expand rapidly in there. That's where we really see, and I think omnichannel. We launched in Walmart this year nationwide, and I think reinventing the entire.
Congratulations!
Yes, that's amazing. Woohoo! We need the confetti. Where's our confetti thing?
Nobody asked for this. By the way, Tim Cook, if you're listening to this stupid podcast, nobody asked for that.
And we know he is because it's millions and millions of listeners. Also, Teams. I have some beef to cut with Microsoft because they do the same thing. You're talking and they're like, woohoo, if I say woohoo in a meeting and it's throwing shit up on my screen like time. I don't need that.
All right.
Teams
Moving
is the worst.
Moving on.
So Matt, also you talked about eBay, and I think you found a lot of success on eBay. what do you think the current state is of eBay? Like, are they
Oof.
serving a purpose? Is there a niche here? Can they cut it? Where are they going?
And that's just what I feel like. I mean, I just literally bought a car floor mats off there just to try to give them another chance. And they didn't end up fitting my car, and they were $130, and they wanted to charge me $114 to return the item. I think I put this on LinkedIn, and I'm like, I
Buyer
even
friendly.
called eBay support, and they told me that I should have filed it as a item not as described as opposed to item not fit. They literally support told me this, and I'm less like,
What does that even mean?
yeah, I don't know. There's two options like in the drop down. So
Yeah.
Oh,
Anyone
that's
wonder
rough.
why Amazon wins? I'm looking at like when was like the low point of eBay and when was the high point of eBay from your point of view? Are we at the low point of eBay? I feel like it used to be worse. Like eBay used to try to copy Amazon
Hmm.
like every single day. It seems like at least now they're not trying to copy Amazon, but they're not really
I mean, it's still
trying
the
that
same
hard either.
UI that's literally from when I started selling. I think it's lacking the founder's original like vision, and they've brought a lot of smart consultants in and like corporate people, but there hasn't been a lot of creativity.
eBay was
In the
always the
business.
king of bringing in MBAs and PowerPoints, huh,
Yeah,
Jess? You
Oh,
remember that from
always.
your time there?
I do. I do. Only good ideas come from people with higher level degrees, I think. And it's also a challenge when um, the smartest people in the room are smarter than the consumer and what the consumer is telling them. And it's like I think that's what you're saying, Matt. It's like the consumer ultimately should be guiding and navigating your purpose and what your value is. And there's so much richness in the eBay experience and the opportunity. It just continues to be squandered, right? Because like Goat shouldn't exist, the Real shouldn't exist. There's a lot of these marketplaces that technically shouldn't exist if eBay was stronger at executing in those areas. So,
yeah. And to
yeah,
your point, I think one area where they succeeded is like the brands coming on, like Adidas and those
yeah,
brands having outlets on there. But I mean, shop premium outlets where the whole Simon Group's going online
yep,
with that. I mean, I think you're going to see a lot of those brands start to, that consumer is going to go over there versus checking eBay daily deals to figure out
yeah,
when the next $30 Adidas deal is. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
Nick Kaplan has a good question. I wanted to pose this to both of you guys. I have my own answer. Like everything is so freaking crowded these days, and
Hmm.
everyone seems like it goes after the same shiny objects. How do you break through and matter in the marketplace and actually start to get traction?
is that a question for me?
It
Yeah.
is.
Are you saying from a seller's perspective or from
Yeah,
an actual marketplace perspective?
from a seller's perspective.
I've always said the same thing. When people turn a feed on and just launch on a marketplace, it does not work. And when I ask sellers that are like, like look at Walmart.com and Guardian. We literally went on Guardian, we went on Walmart. I put probably a B level person in my company in charge of that marketplace to constantly handle the reps, optimize the listings, put a team underneath, and then we captivated on the marketplace, started ranking very well organically. The buyers invited us down to Bentonville, which never happens. We went to the annual retail conference, first group of e-commerce, and that's because we put people in charge of it. And then when I ask other people that are marketplace sellers, like, I have another marketplace business that is, sells fashion items as well, and we do very well in Walmart because my co-founder in that business pays attention to Walmart. He's on calls constantly. He's working with the reps, and when you don't have that dedication to that store, then that's what happens. And I would say like you fail in that marketplace, if that makes sense. Like when I talk to people that are like, oh, we only do 2% of our business on Walmart. And I'm like, do you check any of the listings? Do you have an account manager on there? Do you have somebody on your team
Yeah.
that's constantly looking? Are you actively having weekly or biweekly calls with the account managers? Are you looking at new opportunities like they just released coupons and stuff like that? And the answer is always no, or most of the time no.
Yeah, I think
Answer
what you're saying is there's also some tenacity, right? Like a marketplace can't be set it and forget it. You've got to
right.
have a playbook and a strategy, but you also have to have tenacity on finding the right points of contact within the organization who are going to care equally about your business and grow. And that was our strategy at eBay too. Like I loved my time at eBay. I learned a lot. It was fun because we were making these connections with brands and talking about how could we leverage the marketplace itself to drive value proposition for brands and help them either with excess inventory or get in front of new buyers. But also, it was great for the consumer because you had this consistent, steady flow of inventory from legitimate sellers, and sometimes, so it was partnering with the Street Motos of the world, coupled with the Under Armours, Calvin Kleins, Kate Spades, etc., to have that nice blend of reliable inventory, because it goes back to what you talked about, Rick, trust. If you
Yeah.
don't have trust in a marketplace, you're dead.
Yeah, and look, I've always described marketplace business as like a knife fight in a phone booth. It's literally the most competitive markets on earth are on these online marketplaces, and I think a lot of people they look at the bestseller lists, and they're trying to find copies that are products that sort of copy those bestsellers. To me, that's like the exact opposite thing you want to do in these marketplaces.
Right.
You need to go. Um, I really admire what you did, Matt. It's like going to sports that are underrepresented,
Yeah.
because there's just a whole group of people that are just waiting to be paid attention to.
Right.
And those are going to be your most passionate fans, they're going to tell their friends, and then you're going to find the next big thing while everyone else is focused on the past.
The phrase niches make riches exists for a reason, right? There is opportunity when you can find the niche or you find something that is untapped and you tap it. And Matt, that's what you've done so well. So I think we also want to unpack another part of the marketplace ecosystem, which is leading us to our next story, and it's free shipping. And Rick, you have so much passion around this topic. So I want you to open it up for us. And Matt, you've got a lot of insight here. So stay on so you can weigh in.
Yeah, I think there have been a couple of studies recently that kind of give all sides of this free shipping discussion. One is a payments and Adobe study, whereas I pulled one key stat out of it, in that 66% of consumers consider free shipping key to their loyalty for a retail or a marketplace, meaning that despite the fact that everyone thinks free shipping is so expensive to offer as a merchant or a retailer, consumers are sort of unfazed by that and haven't changed what they're looking for when they're shopping. So I thought that was super interesting. Second, on the return side, it seems like returns, and I find this certainly true, especially like, even on Amazon. Amazon says they have like $5 or $6 returns if you don't return it to a Whole Foods. There's an Inditex Group survey out of the UK which says 14% more retailers year over year are charging for returns this year than last year. A Narvar survey on the free shipping side, back to that, I mean, a popular way to sort of get around, like, hey, we still offer free shipping, is to make your AOVs like super high. Like, oh, if you buy $500, you'll get free shipping. Like, great, thank you. But Macy's, Saks, Abercrombie and Fitch have all raised their free shipping bar over the last year, based on a Narvar study in 2019. So I think your question is to the group, and you guys are both merchants, which is, to me, fun, I think, to have this discussion. Do consumers still value free shipping? And as a merchant, how do you offer it without going bankrupt?
You should answer first, Matt.
I think I can take the merchant perspective fully. I see a number of offerings in the space. So 5-10 years ago, you used to have to like negotiate with the DHL ecoms or the FedExes or UPSs of the world. USPS released Ground Advantage last year. A lot of these solutions are being offered. This low-level pricing is being offered directly through shipping companies or software like ShipStation, ShipWorks.
Yep.
UPS is actually like almost dynamically pricing, or Stamps is. So like when Ground Advantage launched, UPS lost a ton of volume for their SurePost and Ground product, and then they dynamically lowered the pricing because the USPS couldn't adjust because it takes Congress passing and everything like that. And then I see Amazon Logistics has put in a lot of offerings for e-commerce sellers, and their rates got really low. We launched at Guardian, and items that were costing us $10, $15 with USPS or UPS were down to $6 or $7 in some cases. And so, I really see a lot of dynamic pricing there, but then I also see UPS kind of repricing to actually be lower than Amazon Logistics. So a lot of people are jumping in the space. on more economic solutions. That's one way as a seller we've been able to kind of constantly offer the free shipping. And I think also looking at lowering the number of FBA offerings and what percentage of the catalog we do with the increased prices of Amazon and a lot of their new stage and fulfillment
What?
fees.
Wait, hold on. Amazon raising their prices to sellers? What are you talking about? Is
Your margin,
where
their
you can't-
opportunity,
you
remember?
can't- is this something you can't talk about?
No, I mean it's just they're doing the FBA placement fees on there, so on all the new packages. So they said, hey, we want to compete against Shein and Temu, so we're going to lower the commission for apparel sellers. But then they did FBA placement fees, and I'm like, you just lowered the hotel fee, but now you're charging $50 a day for parking for valet.
So, yeah.
It's all the same.
Price. Yeah.
Yeah.
What
The math all evens out, which is what Brandon was saying. It's even math. Or it's always easy math, right?
What are you seeing out there, Jess?
Yeah, look, as a merchant, it does get harder and harder to continue to offer free shipping, especially when you have what's happening in the economy with trading down. There had been a time where there was more of a premiumization of your assortment. You were able to get people into higher margin items. You were able to work on your mix strategy, and you're seeing this across retail. You see Target seeing that pressure and trade down. You see even Walmart, in certain areas seeing trade down. And so I think it gets harder and harder for pure play to maintain margin. At Shutterfly a couple of years ago, we took up our threshold. We had to reshift that as, the mix changed. And so it is one of the opportunities for sure to get customers in, but it's very difficult to maintain consistently over time with the pressure that also comes every Q4. Your rates are going up and your fees are going up by the carriers. And so the carriers really are in control. And I was wondering, Matt, you talked about some of the shifts and the changes. Do you think some of these like last mile companies can really make an impact in helping e-commerce players compete with someone like an Amazon who's got so many warehouses in the ground? Like, is there any software technology that you've seen that's interesting?
I've been more on I would say, the fulfillment offerings of marketplaces like WFS and FBA. I think that's really where more merchants look at their value play in terms of, and I know a number of marketplaces that are looking at solutions there, and I've been testing a bunch of things there. So, but I haven't done a lot on the last mile space.
No, it's interesting. I agree with Brandon here. There's really obviously no such thing as free shipping. There is that consumer expectation where Amazon gave it to everybody, and you always forget about the fact that they're charging you for Prime. Meanwhile, no one else can compete with that, and so it's really like they stick their boot on the neck of everyone. You don't have to agree with me or not. Blink twice if you're being held hostage, Matt.
What about ShopRunner? ShopRunner, remember that back?
Let's
band all of our retail prowess together, and together we'll be better.
FedEx bought ShopRunner. That's about the best I could say about that. I'm not sure what happened to them. FedEx said they were going to make an e-commerce platform that was not an e-commerce platform. It seems like more like they tried to make a Narvar competitor, which I'm not sure the world needs yet another Narvar competitor out there.
Matt, we got one more question for you. As you talked about Shein and Temu, so bringing it back, what's your take on those marketplaces?
If I was in those industries, like in footwear, apparel, and a lot of the penetration that they have, or soft lines, I've seen a lot of my friends that are US-based merchants get absolutely annihilated by black hat tactics from a lot of APAC sellers on marketplaces over the years.
Yeah.
So I think this is just another wave of it. It's a different form of it, right? It's a more public, transparent war on that. When I chose baseball, I chose an industry that was still very brand loyal. I got into an industry that has very little APAC penetration for that reason, because I fought that for 15 years. So, I mean,
you did.
It's a tough business, but I don't know. There's not a good solution if you're in that space. I mean, they're going to kind of take over, especially with the customer looking at value. I mean, Rick, you said it, 90% last week, 90% of people that shop Temu also shop Amazon and Walmart. So,
yeah, there's a big customer overlap, and look, Amazon only has himself to blame. Back in the day when Amazon was growing their marketplace, Sebastian Gunningham went to Jeff Bezos and said, they had over 100 sales reps signing up Chinese sellers, like in 2011, 2012, hand over fist, and the percentage of Chinese sellers went from like 15% to 60% just in the span of 5 or 6 years. And they created the monster, and so there's no turning back. And previous attempts from Chinese marketplaces to come to the U.S. have not been super successful. Alibaba has tried directly, AliExpress. Unlike in Europe, Wish.
Not really Chinese, but
not exactly, but where the product's made, they didn't have enough money to make it happen, and now the conglomerates in China themselves are now making it happen. We'll see what happens to TikTok, what country they end up being owned by.
I mean, my teenage boys, they shop on TikTok marketplace. They buy themselves on TikTok and Temu. I mean, that's kind of the marketplaces if they want like an Xbox or like something like, they'll say, hey, wear this on Amazon or something.
Yeah.
Or like, hey, I need a new pair of Nikes or something. But it's just like, hey, I need slides for after the baseball game, or I need a thing for my wrist for baseball, or, to make strength training thing.
Yeah.
I mean, they have
all day
milk cards and they're buying it on those marketplaces.
I know. We talked about Matt and I both have 14-year-olds, and my 14-year-old had a jean jacket show up because the 90s are trending back, and I'm like, what the hell is this? This is like
a jean jacket.
So first purchase got burned, totally burned. He's like, this isn't as described. If it was eBay, he probably wouldn't get his money back. So.
Yeah, file a SNAD on eBay.
SNAD on eBay. All right, Matt, thank you. Get your dance moves ready because we're going to talking about customers and what they value. We are hopping in very quickly to the Consumer Happiness Index, and we have got another day in the life of the inflation roller coaster, Rick, bringing it to you. 100%. So the CPI index came out this week. PPI also came out. I know you wrote about that today. And as a reminder, the CPI index just measures the average price that the consumer pays. Inflation rose 3.8% year over year and ticked up month over month. It's supposed to be going down, guys. It's supposed to be going down month over month.
Wrong direction, folks.
Wrong direction, people. Gas and shelter responsible for 60% of the increase. This shelter thing is not going away. Housing prices keep going up. People are now renting instead. And so rent prices go up. And it's this vicious cycle. And so the Fed's path to the 2% remains bumpy. We want them to
You're
cut
salty
rates.
Today, Leseski.
I'm salty today. But you know what? I'm fired up because my team, Go Wolfpack, is in the semifinals. And I know Ty Rudy's watching, and we're going to kick your ass. We're going to kick your ass, UNC. So the 2% is bumpy. We're not going to get there. And I thought this chart was really interesting because this is showing you that cycle over time from 2020 to where we then started to see the byproduct of the pandemic and the supply chain pressures into 20. It's just not coming down fast enough. And that's really the moral of the story here. And it's really challenging. Across the pond, and our friends over in the UK, similar story here. So it's rough o'clock over there on inflation. We have two banks that are giving some forecasts, but not showing what is ultimately needed to get to everybody's target and goal rate. So I think that it's going to be a bit challenging. I guess the silver lining is that 2023 inflation in the US was at 6% year over year. So again, it's coming down. It's just we're not in the rate cut phase. So what do you think, Rick?
No one seems to be hitting their targets. Look, a couple months ago, I wrote about the economy, and it seemed like 2024, based on retail earnings, was heading in incrementally better than 2023 on a year-over-year basis. Now it seems like with new inflation data, new economic data, new consumer spending data, it's not quite as rosy as I thought, which means at the end of the day, can 2024 be flat year over year? Everyone was hoping, first of all, the economists thought that interest rates were going to be cut in like February, March.
Right.
I knew that wasn't going to happen.
Correct.
Earliest the middle of the year. Now the data keeps getting worse every time it comes out. And so it makes me think not even going to be the middle of the year, maybe towards the end of the year. Here are a couple of things that I find it's interesting. Mickey D's. What are they doing to us? Like cheeseburgers are like $7 now, first of all.
It's getting more expensive. And Wendy's and their Uber surge pricing models, not happening.
Even in Matt's, there's people need a burger. I mean,
they need a burger, but they're not buying them, right?
They're
Staying
not
at
buying
home.
them.
Eating
100%.
ramen.
And so McDonald's CEO said on their earnings call is that inflation is people or consumers are eating at home more. But like the elephant in the room is that he kept jacking up the prices. And so they have themselves to blame a little bit. There were some interesting sales numbers for February that I saw that came out. Online sales for February were minus 1% month over month. Meanwhile, stores month over month was plus 0.6%. And a lot of this is grocery and food inflation kind of ticked up. I thought that was interesting. My friend Martin Heubel from the UK says that there's been an Amazon Spring Sale there in Europe for many years. But this is the first time I've actually seen it in the United States. I wake up this week, Amazon Spring Sale is like in 6 days. Amazon never, and it's, by the way, it's like 3 days before the end of the quarter. So it's like extremely transparent what's going on here.
Correct.
I can't say I don't blame them, but it doesn't make me feel good about Amazon's traffic numbers. And given that Amazon is such a big percentage of e-commerce, it makes me worry for sellers. It makes me worry for other parts of e-commerce if Amazon is having to juice their traffic numbers.
Yeah, I completely agree. And Jill, I love this throwback to the recent General Mills CEO comment of, hey, let them eat cereal, like let them eat cake. What the hell are people thinking? So yeah, you guys heard it here. We are breaking down the latest. The highlights is it's still rough on the inflation journey. Prices are still high. It's putting pressure on. We're probably starting to see some continued slowdown in retail as an impact. And so hold on to your horses. I'm still predicting the election's going to influence something here because the great news story is rates are down. Economy's getting better. So we'll see if it plays out.
100%. And apparently, whether or not TikTok gets banned will depend on the election result too. So keep your eye on that one.
Yeah. All right. So I got one more thing because we can't miss this opportunity to talk about
I'm
international.
excited.
It's Women's Month. Who run the world, girls? And there are some women that we want to shout out to in STEM that completely have changed the tech world for the better. We have Ada Lovelace. She is the first computer programmer, the daughter of Lord Byron, and her notes on analytical engine led Alan Turing to form his work on the first actual working computer. We have Hedy Lamarr, the inventor of Wi-Fi. She was an inventor and an actress, by the way. Check out this headshot. So,
unbelievable.
Awarded a patent in 1942 for her secret communication system. And this essentially was intended as a radio guided for torpedoes. So super smart. Thank you. And Annie Easley, a NASA rocket scientist, a trailblazer for gender and racial diversity in STEM, one of 4 employees in the lab in NASA that were African American, and vital work on the Centaur program that basically paved the way for future rocket launches. So Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, you can thank Annie. She's kicking ass. And then Karen Spark Jones, the pioneer in information science. She developed her important word was to document what's now standard in search engines and ranking algos. So again, these women are incredible, and we salute you. Thank you so much for your contributions.
Love it. Thank you for bringing that up, Jess. I am in awe, especially as an electrical engineer. You invented Wi-Fi, like. I would not even know where to begin.
I know. Seriously, mind blown, right? And that, like, 100%. Think about it, and it's insane, right? And it took us how long to get it on our BlackBerry?
Yeah, by the way, my Wi-Fi doesn't work, so maybe we should bring back Hedy to fix it.
Yeah, exactly. It's just gone downhill from there.
I know, it's gone downhill since she passed away. So we're going to bring back on. Any last words for our viewers, Matt?
I miss Blackberries. Those are the things.
Oh, I do. Actually, that was also a good movie. I haven't seen it. Pretty interesting.
That's the best. It was what, Hulu or something, right? It was that whole series.
Yeah. No, it's great. Yeah. Now we're going to go into a dance party.
All right, show us what you got,
Matt.
Matt.
To see your moves.
Oh, that's the Matt we know. That's the Matt.